My name is Frances W. Moore, 31 years old, and the moment my relationship truly ended started with a sentence my boyfriend said like it was completely normal. My sister's moving in today, permanently. Adrian didn't even pause when he said it. He leaned back against the couch, scrolling through his phone like he was announcing a grocery list item instead of rewriting our entire living situation. I remember staring at him for a few seconds, waiting for the rest of the conversation to appear. It didn't. For context, Adrian and I had been together a little over a year. We had lived together for 8 months in a downtown apartment that looked much more expensive online than it actually was in person. Adrian is a lifestyle influencer. Not internet famous exactly, but not small either. Around 47,000 followers. Fashion, wellness, routines, soft life aesthetics, that kind of thing. When we first met, he had closer to 12,000 followers and worked part-time at a boutique clothing store. Back then, he talked constantly about growth, momentum, branding. Honestly, I admired the ambition. Ambition is attractive when it's paired with effort. What I didn't understand at first was how expensive his brand actually was. When we moved in together, Adrian couldn't cover the first and last month of rent. I did. He told me he'd pay me back once a few sponsorship deals came through. They never did. When he said his phone camera wasn't good enough for Reels, I helped him buy a new one. When his car didn't match the image he wanted online, I co-signed the lease for a better one. When he said stress hurt his creativity, I started covering more of the household bills so he could focus on content. That was probably the first place I messed up. Somewhere along the way, I stopped being Adrian's girlfriend and became his infrastructure. I was the one holding bags while he filmed outfit transitions in parking garages, the one waiting silently while he retook the same coffee sip 6 times to get the perfect aesthetic angle. If I accidentally spoke while he was recording, he would snap immediately. Frances, seriously, you're ruining the vibe. Still, I told myself relationships go through phases. That support was temporary, that eventually things would balance out. Then last week, Adrian sat me down on the couch like he was explaining a change to a subscription plan. So my sister Lila is moving in today, permanently. I blinked. Why? He rolled his eyes instantly. Wow, you're already being dramatic. Apparently Lila needed a reset. Apparently family came first. I asked where she would sleep. Adrian shrugged. We'll figure it out. Then he crossed his arms and said the sentence that stuck in my head long after the conversation ended. You'll be paying for everything. If you don't like it, move out. I nodded slowly. Understood. Adrian smirked. He thought understood meant compliance. Like I would grumble quietly for a few days and then fall back into the routine I had built around his life. He went right back to scrolling through his phone, probably texting someone about how supportive I was. I stood there for a moment longer watching him, the way he didn't even check my face. That was the moment something inside me quietly shifted. I didn't argue. I didn't explain how insane it was to move someone into our apartment permanently without even discussing it. I didn't ask about rent, utilities, privacy, or how temporary help had somehow become permanent responsibility. I simply walked into the bedroom and closed the door. That night, Lila showed up carrying 2 trash bags of clothes and a gaming console. No hello. No thank you. She dropped the bags in the living room and immediately asked for the Wi-Fi password. Adrian called from the kitchen for me to be nice because she was going through a lot. I smiled politely, gave her the password, asked if she needed help carrying anything else upstairs. Adrian watched that interaction carefully like he was waiting for me to explode. I didn't. Later that night, while he filmed a night routine video in the bathroom, I sat on the edge of the bed with my laptop and pulled up our lease agreement. Month to month. 30 days notice. Both our names listed. But guess who paid the security deposit? Guess whose bank account every utility bill came from? I started making a list. Not an angry one. Just a clean, boring list. Lease. Internet. Power. Streaming services. Phone plan. Car insurance. Every small expense I had quietly absorbed because it was easier than arguing. Around midnight, Adrian finally came to bed and complained that my energy felt off. He said stress shows up on camera and could hurt his engagement. Then he added casually, just don't start acting weird now that Lila's here. I told him everything was fine. And for the first time in a long time, I meant it. The next morning, Adrian and his sister left early. They were going out for coffee, he said, so he could show Lila the neighborhood and film a quick morning vlog. He kissed my cheek on the way out, already talking to his phone camera about family reset energy and how important it was to support the people you love. I waited 10 minutes after the door closed. Then I started packing. Not fast, not emotional, just deliberate. The first box was clothes, mine only. I folded everything neatly and stacked it into a suitcase and 2 cardboard boxes I pulled from the hallway closet. Adrian's clothes stayed exactly where they were. Next came books, then my laptop equipment, documents, and a few small personal things that had slowly collected around the apartment over the months. It was strange how much of the place wasn't actually mine. Most of the decor was Adrian's idea. Ring lights, camera tripods, aesthetic storage baskets, the little props he used for filming routines. The apartment looked beautiful on camera, but most of the space existed to support his brand. By noon, half my belongings were boxed. Around that time, I made the first phone call. Our landlord picked up on the second ring. I had never actually spoken to him before because Adrian usually handled the communication. He liked feeling in control of that kind of thing. "Hi," I said calmly. "My name is Frances Moore. I'm calling about our lease." I explained the situation simply. There had been a sudden change in the living arrangement, and I needed to remove myself from the lease. The landlord sighed like he had heard versions of this story before. "Month-to-month lease," he said. 30 days notice, no penalties. Then he asked one question. "Does your boyfriend know?" "He will," I replied. The second call was to my bank. I separated my account from every automatic payment connected to the apartment. Internet, electricity, streaming services, gym membership Adrian had insisted we sign up for, but never actually used. Each one scheduled to end within the week. It was oddly satisfying. Not dramatic, just clean. The third call was to a friend of mine named Daniel, who lived across town. "Hey," I said when he answered, "you still have that spare room?" He didn't ask any questions. "Yeah," he said, "desk or couch, whatever you need." By the time Adrian and Lila came back around 6 in the evening, the apartment looked very different. Boxes stacked neatly near the door, my suitcase beside them. Adrian froze in the entryway. "What is this?" he asked sharply. "Just organizing," I said. Lila looked between us for about half a second before shrugging and turning on the TV. Adrian followed me into the bedroom and lowered his voice. "Why are you being passive-aggressive?" "I'm not. I told you my sister was moving in." "I know," I said calmly. "You were very clear." He stared at me, waiting for the rest of the conversation. The apology. The negotiation. The part where I backed down like I always had. When it didn't come, his expression shifted slightly. Not panic. Annoyance. The kind you feel when an app freezes. "You're not actually thinking about leaving," he said. "Don't be dramatic." I taped another box shut and finally looked at him. "You told me to move out if I didn't like it." He laughed once. Too loudly. "You can't just do that." That was when I realized something important. He genuinely believed that. Adrian followed me back into the living room, voice rising now, not caring that his sister could hear everything. "You're overreacting," he said. "Couples support each other. This is what adults do." I didn't correct him. I simply picked up another box. That was when he snapped. "So what?" he said angrily. "You're just abandoning me after everything I've built?" That sentence landed wrong. Everything he built. As if I had been nothing more than background support. "I gave notice," I said calmly. 30 days. His eyes widened. There it was. The first flicker of panic. "You can't do that without talking to me first." "You talked to me," I said evenly. "You just didn't ask." Lila muted the TV. She was suddenly very interested in the conversation. Adrian crossed his arms, defaulting to contempt. "Fine," he said coldly. "Leave, but don't expect me to beg." He leaned closer. "You'll regret this when you realize what you're throwing away." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was predictable. He still thought regret only ran one direction. That night was icy. Adrian filmed a reset routine video in the bedroom while I slept on the couch. At one point, he actually hissed at me for breathing too loudly because the microphone picked it up. The next morning, the internet shut off at exactly 9:07 a.m. Adrian's scream echoed through the apartment. He burst out of the bedroom holding his phone. "What did you do?" I sipped my coffee calmly. "Canceled my account." "You can't do that," he shouted. "I have deadlines." "You should set it up in your name," I said. "You're the one using it." Lila tried to laugh it off until her gaming console disconnected. By noon, the power company email arrived. Then the streaming services logged out. Then Adrian's car lease payment declined. He sat on the floor staring at his banking app like it had betrayed him. "This isn't funny," he said quietly. "Fix it." I grabbed my keys. "I'm fixing my situation." When I carried the last box to the door, Adrian finally followed me. For the first time since the conversation started. "You're seriously doing this?" he asked. I paused with my hand on the door handle. "You told me to." Behind me, reality was finally moving into the apartment, and it was loud. I stayed with my friend Daniel for the first week. His place was quiet in a way my apartment with Adrian never had been. No ring lights, no constant filming, no phone propped against a coffee mug, capturing another perfectly curated morning routine. Just a small spare room with a mattress on the floor and a window that actually opened. The first night I slept there, I realized how tense my shoulders had been for months. When the silence settled in, my body didn't know what to do with it. Serafina, sorry, Adrian, didn't handle silence well. The first day, he texted like nothing unusual had happened. Casual updates, small comments. Internet's being weird today, Lowell. I didn't respond. The second day, the tone shifted. We need to talk like adults. 10 minutes later, another message appeared. This is really immature. By day 3, the calls started. Missed calls first, then voicemails. Adrian's voice bouncing between irritation and disbelief. I don't understand why you're doing this to me, he said in one message. That line stuck with me. Not once did he ask where I was staying. Not once did he ask if I was okay. What he asked was when I was coming back to fix things. Like I had stepped away from a job. On the 4th day, I received a notification from the landlord. Adrian had called him. Apparently, he had cried on the phone, telling him we were working through a relationship problem and asking if the lease could stay unchanged until we figured things out. The landlord politely reminded him that I had already filed notice. That night, Adrian finally said the quiet part out loud. My sister can't pay anything right now, he texted. I thought you understood that. I stared at the message for a long moment. Not angry, just tired. I typed one sentence. You didn't ask me to understand. You told me to accept. An hour passed before his reply came through. So you're choosing money over me. That was the moment everything became clear. Adrian genuinely believed I existed to absorb consequences, so he wouldn't have to feel them. The next morning he posted an Instagram story. Black screen, white text, learning who's really there when life gets hard. Mutual friends started reaching out to me slowly. Careful messages that sounded neutral on the surface. Hey, just checking in. Which really meant, why did you abandon the influencer? I didn't explain. I just kept moving forward. At the end of the week, I went back to the apartment to collect the last few things. Adrian wasn't there. Lila was sprawled across the couch, surrounded by empty takeout containers and soda cans. The living room looked like someone had hosted a party and forgotten to clean up afterward. She glanced up when I walked in. You're the girl who left, she said flatly. Yeah, she shrugged. She didn't think you'd actually do it. Neither did I admitted. I walked past her into the bedroom. That was when I noticed the stack of unopened mail on the kitchen counter. Bills! Lots of them. Rent reminders. Utility shut-off warnings. Credit card statements with balances that made my stomach tighten. Everything was stacked neatly, unopened. Like if Adrian didn't look at them, they might disappear. I grabbed the last box from the closet. Winter clothes. Old hoodies. While I was taping the box shut, I noticed something else. The ring light was still standing in the corner. Camera mount attached. Background staged. Adrian had even left his caption notebook open on the bed. He had been planning to film a hard season video. That explained the dramatic Instagram story. He walked into the room while I was carrying the box toward the door. He didn't say hello. He leaned against the doorframe and crossed his arms. Are you done making your point? He asked. I didn't answer immediately. You really embarrassed me, he continued. Do you have any idea how this looks? That was the part that surprised me the most. Not how this feels. Not why did you leave? Just optics. I told people you were stressed, he added, that you needed space. Don't make me a liar. I finally looked at him. You already rewrote the story. He scoffed. Of course I did. I'm not going to tell people you abandoned me. I didn't abandon you, I said calmly. I exited a deal you changed without asking. His jaw tightened. Hey, you make everything sound so cold. That's because you only hear things when they affect you financially. He flinched. Then the pivot came. The softer tone, the one that had worked on me before. We can fix this, Adrian said quietly. My sister can find a job. We'll make a plan. Just come back. I shook my head slowly. You didn't want a plan, I said. You wanted compliance. His eyes filled with tears instantly. You're really just going to leave me like this? I picked up the box. You left first, I said. You just didn't move out. As I walked past him, he whispered one last line. You'll regret this. I stopped at the door, not to argue, just to say one thing. I already don't. 2 days later, the real panic began. And it sounded nothing like an Instagram story. 2 days after that conversation, the panic finally stopped being subtle. At 6:18 in the morning, my phone started ringing. Adrian. I let it ring the first time, then the second. By the fourth call, I answered, not because I wanted to talk, but because I wanted the noise to stop. His voice sounded wrecked. Not the polished influencer sadness he used online. Not the dramatic tone he used in videos. This was different, raw, unfiltered. They're going to tow my car, he said immediately. No greeting, no accusation. Just fear. I leaned back against the wall and closed my eyes for a moment. That's between you and the leasing company, I said. You're still on the paperwork, he replied quickly. They said they might contact you next. I removed myself from the lease, I reminded him. Silence filled the line for a few seconds. Then I heard him breathing. Fast. My cards are maxed, he whispered. I thought a brand deal was coming through, but it didn't. And Lila hasn't even started looking for a job yet. There it was. The reality he couldn't curate. I need help, he said. Not I'm sorry. Not I was wrong. Just need. I waited. Sometimes silence gives people space to say the important thing. Nothing came. I can't fix this for you, I said finally. That doesn't mean I hate you. It just means I'm done funding decisions I don't get a voice in. His defensive reflex kicked in instantly. So you're punishing me. No, I said calmly. I'm opting out. He hung up. An hour later, a Venmo request appeared. No message. Just a number. I blocked him after that. Later that day, a mutual friend messaged me. Apparently, Adrian had started telling people I walked out during a family emergency, that I had been financially controlling and abandoned him when he needed support. I didn't argue with anyone. Instead, I forwarded a few screenshots. The lease agreement, the payment history, the canceled accounts. Then I stopped responding. That night, Adrian posted another story online. This time he was crying on camera, talking about betrayal, about being blindsided by someone he trusted. The comments were split. Some people were sympathetic. Others started asking questions. The video disappeared an hour later. Panic doesn't perform well when it isn't scripted. A week passed. Then another. Silence did what arguments never could. It forced Adrian to sit with the consequences without someone nearby to blame. I found out later that Lila moved out after 10 days. Apparently permanent, lasted exactly until the Wi-Fi, groceries, and ride money disappeared. She went to stay with a friend and told people Adrian was stressing her out. The irony didn't seem to register with him. A few days later, I received an email from Adrian. Long, carefully written, almost professional. He apologized for how things came across. He said he had been under pressure. He said family obligations had clouded his judgment. Then he added the line that told me nothing had actually changed. Relationships require sacrifice. Not mutual sacrifice, just sacrifice. I read the message twice and archived it. A few days later, I ran into him again by accident. This time it was at a grocery store. He looked different, not dramatically thinner or older, just smaller. No ring-light glow, no carefully styled camera angles, just a tired guy pushing a cart half full of cheap essentials. He saw me and froze. Francis, he said softly, you look fine. I am. He nodded slowly. I'm figuring things out. I know. He waited for reassurance. When it didn't come, his voice sharpened. You really just walked away. I met his eyes. No, I said. I walked forward. For the first time, he looked like he understood. Not completely, but enough. He opened his mouth like he had one last thing to say, then closed it. There was nothing left that worked on me anymore. I paid for my groceries and left. Behind me, he was still standing in the same spot. Later that night, he posted another photo online. Solo, captioned with words about growth and independence. The comments were supportive. The bank notifications he was probably getting were not. A few weeks later, I got one last message. Not from Adrian. From his sister. Short, awkward. Hey, I didn't know he told you it was permanent. I thought I was staying a couple weeks. I stared at the message for a long time. That explained a lot. The confidence. The entitlement. The way Adrian had announced it like a decree instead of a discussion. He hadn't just crossed a boundary. He had rewritten reality to match the outcome he wanted. I replied with one sentence. Take care of yourself. And that was it. No more loose threads. Life didn't suddenly become perfect after that. There was no revenge glow-up. No dramatic comeback story. Just small changes. My grocery bill dropped. My stress headaches disappeared. I stopped flinching every time my phone buzzed. For the first time in a long time, it felt peaceful to exist without being useful. Sometimes late at night, I still replay the moment on the couch. Adrian leaning back, completely confident. You'll be paying for everything. If you don't like it, move out. He said it like no one ever had before. And I think that's what shocked him the most. Not that I left. That I didn't argue. I didn't negotiate. I didn't beg. I simply accepted the terms and packed.